Welcome, guys. Welcome back to IK Academy Trading's course videos. So in this video, we'll be treating the concept of imbalance and order block. So, looking at things like we'll be looking at how to identify valid and invalid OB, which is order block. We'll also be looking at order block refinements, order block mitigation. So, those things will be covered in this particular topic. So we've come a long way, and I give you guys kudos if you guys are putting the work, because if you have gotten to this point, it basically means that you're putting in the work and you're getting good value, and then probably understanding these things that are being taught in this particular project or this particular course program. And I'm hoping that you guys are able to get these things and then achieve the profitability that you're looking for. All right, so let's go straight into the video. So we're talking about imbalance. Let's start with imbalance. So these things, like I said, I'm not teaching how the market works. I'm basically teaching my system, and these are concepts that I use um, for my system. I use them with my system. These are concepts I actually use. So we're going to take them step by step, and then hopefully see how we progress. So imbalance. So imbalance for me, I'm not like, if you're new to trading, you might not know, but you have been in trading, you definitely know that these concepts were created by ICT himself. Shout out to ICT. And so, like I said, I'm not teaching how the market works. I'm just using the concepts based on how I understand them. And I'm going to teach you guys how I understand them and how I'm going to apply them. So, imbalance is basically inefficiencies in price. Inefficiencies in price. So how do you spot an imbalance? I'm not going to explain what imbalance is. I'm just going to explain to you how you can spot imbalance in on the chart or on the candlestick. So basically, how do you identify imbalance? And so we're looking at this particular point here. This particular point here. So that's where we're looking at imbalance. So let's just see. This is our imbalance here. Yeah. Nice writing. So all you have to do is pick a candlestick. Now we have two different scenarios here. We have two scenarios. Yeah, you have this and this. So let's start with this particular scenario here. So all you have to do is pick a candlestick. So you can pick any candlestick. So let's say, for instance, let me pick a this candlestick, this one. So if I pick this one as my number one candlestick, for you to spot out imbalance, you need three candlesticks formations. Price should have printed three candlesticks. You look at it, so you pick your first one, and then after you pick your second one, you can now pick your second, your first. After you pick your first, you can now pick your second and the third candlestick. So you can, like as I said, pick a candlestick. So this goes for me. This is now number one. So your number two is not the one above, because you can clearly see that this is red and we are working with a bearish candlestick. Let's say, for instance, this is a bearish market. um if I pick number one, based on I'm working a bearish, my next candlestick will be the next one that formed after that number one, not before the number one. So this is number two and this is number three. So I'm going to be working with these three candlesticks. So based on this particular scenario, now from the first candlestick, you look at the high of the candle and the low of the candle. You can clearly see that the eye of the candle is here, and this is the low of the candle. And so now you skip the number two and go to number three and pick the high. This is the high, and this is the low of number three. Now ask yourself: is there a gap? Is there a space between the low the low of number one, the low of number one candle, and the high of number two candle, of number three candle rather? We can clearly see that there is not a space. There is no space there. Sorry, let me change this. You can clearly see there isn't any space at that particular between those candles. So there is no value imbalance. There is no imbalance in that particular place. So now let's look at another scenario. Let's pick another candle and let's see if we can identify a an imbalance there. So let me clear this up. So now let's pick the first one. Let's look at the first candle. Now we'll pick this is gonna be our first candle, then the number two will be here. This is number two, this is number one, and this is gonna be our number three. Now, based on this scenario, we can clearly see that this is the low because we're looking at bearish. This is the lowest point, and this is the highest point of number three. We don't have to look at number two. Number two, we skip number two, and then we pick the lowest point, and pick the highest point of number three. Now we can clearly see that there is a space between them. The lowest point and the highest point did not touch each other. There was nothing like price um filling those places. So there is actually inefficiency or imbalance in this particular place. We can clearly, so price needs to come back and fill this imbalance either with candlestick body or with the candlestick wick. So that's how to spot an imbalance in the market. So let's also look, since you understand that, or hopefully I hope you guys are able to understand that. Let's look at the second scenario. Now you can clearly see the second scenario. Same thing. If I pick this place as my, if I pick here as my first candle, this is going to be my second, this is going to be my third. You can clearly see that this is the low and this is the highest point. So clearly there is no imbalance in this place. But if I look at from here, one, two, three, we can clearly see that this is the low, this is the high. There is no imbalance in these points too. And but if I start from this point here, I can see, okay, this is my number one, this is my number two, this is my number three, and we can see that this is the low and this is the high. Now, you can see that there is a little bit of space in between them. Sorry. If I take it from here, there is a bit of space, and price filled it a little bit, but price did not completely fill it. And so that basically means our imbalance is at this point like this. This is where we have imbalance. This is where we have the imbalance in the market. So that's basically how to spot imbalance on the candlestick. And it's very, very important that you understand how to spot them, because they will be very, very helpful in being able to identify to pick out good and solid order blocks. So let's now look at order block. So in the order block, we have two different scenarios. We have the bearish and we have the bullish. We have two types of order block. We have the bearish OB and the bullish OB. Yes, the bearish, the 1 week. So for the bearish is basically means we're picking an order block in the bearish market, and for the bullish, we are looking at order block in the bullish market. So for to pick bearish OB, we need to, so a bearish, you can clearly see from this example, price created this solid move to the downside. Yes, that's that structure. And this is illustrations I'll be drawing in previous videos when you see the structure. So these are basically look like on candlestick. Now, the number one rule for you to pick a valid order block is that, okay, let me start by saying what is another block. Another block is actually the, so it's actually the, let me start from here. In a bearish market, the order block is the last buying candle before price went to break the structural low. So we can clearly see in this example that after price came down, price did this pullback. We can see that, and then price came to take out this low where we have, let's say, a break of structure. But we clearly know that to identify break of structure, we need to see a sweep, a like pullback, and in this one taken. So, but let us stick to this one. Let's identify. Oh, let's say price create a low, a lower low. So the other block in this scenario, or let us say this is a break of structure. The other block in this scenario is the last buying candle before price broke the structure. So where's the last buying candle? We have these points to be our last buying candle. Our last buying candle at the peak high. Yeah, majorly at the peak high. So this is our last buying candle. So this is our order block. We pick this entire OB from the week. We pick from the week like this. So yes, this is our order block. It's very, very simple, very, very easy. And for a bearish, that is for a bearish, and for a bullish order block, the bullish order block is the last selling candle before price breaks the structure. Now we can see that after price break the structure. So we can see that price broke the structure here. And where was the last last selling candle. We have this selling candle here, so that's our order block for a bullish in a bullish trend or a bullish structure. And one of the things that you need to use to pick a valid order block, there are several things. Now, number one is that you have to make sure that that particular structure is a valid pullback. You have to make sure that it is a valid pullback. If, for instance, we are having a structure like this, let's say, for instance, we're having a structure like this. Just bear with me. Now we can clearly see that price went to the downside and maybe just did a jump, a gap, and we basically see that this is the highest point of this candle and this is the lowest point. We can clearly see that this entire move did not take out this high. So it means that this is not a pullback. If you don't understand, go back and watch the pullback video. This is not a pullback. So basically, if this is not a pullback, if this is not a valid pullback, this cannot be our order block. Then we cannot pick that place as an order block. So that's it. That's basically what I want you guys to see. And so one of the things to pick a valid order block is actually to pick what you need to be able to identify a valid pullback. That is rule number one. That's what you have to know. That is one thing you have to pick. And also, on that thing to use to pick a valid order block is to actually check if that order block has an imbalance. And you can clearly see that in this point. So we have from the order block, from the candle, this is the candle that we're looking at to be the order block, and we pick it as our number one. So this is number two, and this is number three. And you can clearly see that there's a space between here, the number one, and the number three. So this is a valid order block because we have that place to be an imbalance. So we identify the pullback. We also identify this place to be an imbalance. So this is actually a good order block that we can look to sell price from. So for a bullish, we can clearly see this one. So it's a valid pullback because you can see price took out this highest point and price came down and price led to a break of structure. So we have the other block, we have the imbalance here. You can clearly see it here because this is number one, number two, number three. This is from this point, from the it's in a bullish phase. We look at from the high of the number one to the low of the number three and check if there's a space in between, and we can clearly see. But in a situation whereby we have price uh, mitigating price mitigating this place like that, because that is why we call that's what we call mitigation. So that's why I named this place order block mitigation. Price as filling this OB tap the top, the high of this order block, and we can clearly see that there is no imbalance in this point. So we refine by looking at the next candle. So we pick the next candle to act as our order block, and we can now clearly see that this particular one has an OB. Look at, you can clearly see as an what are they calling it, rather an imbalance. You can clearly see this is going to be our number one, number two, and number three, and we can clearly see this is the high and this is the low, and we can clearly see that there is an imbalance there, a space or an inefficiency in price action. So what about a scenario whereby we already have this one mitigating this one, right? So it basically means that we will have to pick stuff like maybe you go on a lower time frame to check if there's an imbalance. So that's how you refine. You go on lower time frame to check the imbalance, or you just pick the candlestick week, the last candlestick that has not been mitigated, and we can clearly see this candlestick here has not been mitigated. Like this week rather, the candle week has not been mitigated. This also has not been mitigated. So you can clearly pick stuff like this, but we can see that this one mitigated this a little bit, but we can see that this, so price can potentially come into this level. Where the situation whereby this hasn't been mitigated, it's just like this price just mitigate only the top, then we can clearly pick stuff like this, pick it like this, pick like this, and then this becomes our order block. So we're going to learn that as we progress more in more about order block and imbalance when we look at more chart, because chart real price action is going to give us different scenarios, and we'll be able to, or we'll be able to I'll be able to explain my way through them. And you need to, because I just want you guys to understand the concept. Once you're able to understand the concept, then you'll be able to use it as the basics. This is just the basics of the concept, and it is, in fact, you all you need is the basics, and you'll be able to apply it in different market dimension. So let's look at candlesticks and see how to apply these basics on the price action, on price itself. So don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have any question, or yes, any question or any feedback, I would like you to send them. You can clearly see I already put my email at this point. You can send them to this email, or you can comment them in the comment section, and I'll try my possible best to give response with videos to the channel. See you guys in the next video.